लग नहीं रहा है कि आपसे मुलाकात बहुत अरसे बाद हो रही है।
हाँ, लेकिन मतलब ये सामने सामने रूबरू होना, उसका अपना भी कुछ मजा है. This
Yes.
virtual thing has its own limitation, but still, show must go on. But I look forward to you, sir. See you in person.
Well, that you have been telling me for a very long time that you will visit Delhi and will meet. Eh?
Yes, certainly, certainly.
But it's
Probably next
always a
month.
very short-term visit whenever you are in Delhi.
Yes, sir. Probably 5th July onward, I may have some opportunity to knock the door in Delhi.
Yes.
We will be there, sir. Certainly. This time we will not miss you.
Okay.
Ji.
So, good morning. Good morning, Professor Dhuliya sir and Professor Jagdish Yadav sir and all my colleagues, Dr. Pranta Pratik Nayak, Dr. Neil Prasad and Dr. Anup Kumar, and myself, Dr. Nicholas Lakra. Presently, I'm coordinator of the department. So, very formally, I would like to welcome all participants and the colleagues, and especially the speaker, sir, Professor Subhash Dhuliya sir, for this webinar. So we have this topic for webinar is career prospects in media industry, and this is the season of admission and registration for entrance exam like that. So in that environment, actually we have put up this webinar on this very significant topic where students aspiring for getting admission can listen about and also get acquainted about the area in career building in media industry. So in this context, we have invited Professor Dhuliya, Subhash Dhuliya sir, who is very prominent personality in the field of media academy and also media industry. So he's very much a blend of these two. So our purpose of education on media is preparing students for career building in the media industry. So in that for that purpose, we especially invited Professor Dhuliya sir. I'd like to invite him, welcome him, and also Professor Jagdish Yadav sir, who is head in charge of a department and also dean of our School of Social Sciences. So I'd like to invite both of you, and also to begin with, I'd like to invite Professor Jagdish Yadav sir to put this webinar in the perspective. So give a orientation to this perspective, give perspective on this webinar and also about university and also the present day status or understanding about the admission, and also then followed by Professor Jagdish Yadav sir to speak about.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Dr. Lakra. Good morning, everyone. Most respected Professor Subhash Dhuliya sir, all my esteemed colleagues, the coordinator for Cultural Media Studies Department, Dr. Lakra ji, Dr. Pranta Patnaik ji, Dr. Anup ji, Neeru Prasad madam, and all our prospective students. Dr. Lakra sir said that it is my job to put the discussion in perspective. But when Professor Subhash Dhuliya sir is there, a person who is a parent figure for all of us, a person who is a mentor for all of us. So in front of him, putting the thing perspective would be a very difficult world and difficult task for all of us. My job is just to welcome Professor Subhash Dhuliya sir and or other team members. But as all central universities this year onwards, we are going to chase this CUT examination, Central University Entrance Examination. Probably this kind of the academic engagement is one kind of the avenue where you people can develop the one is an acquaintance with the university, second is an acquaintance and familiarity with the course, and third one is to developing familiarities with the faculties and what we are doing and what we look for. So probably from these three perspective, this kind of the interaction is going to helpful to all of us. In post-globalized world, the media industry is changing very rampantly. Particularly the space of the change that we are witnessing in last 3 decades. It's beyond our imagination. And as now we are going to enter into a 5G era, I'm anticipating that this speed is going to be very difficult, particularly for my generation, to cope up with the speed. So on this background, understanding the career prospects in media industry is going to be very pertinent, and is academically is going to be very insightful to understand from the persons like the Professor Subhash Dhuliya. As we know that earlier, my generation, we used to fond of taking a newspaper in hand while taking our morning tea. But today we are taking the all gadget in our hand. So the whole social media has personalized uh, the uh, the avenues like the newspaper. We are seeing that how media is going. Not only it has entered in our bedroom, but it has personalized at such level that while sitting in Rajasthan, okay, I am for me the doors of very open of the Thakre family and the Shinde family. I am keeping my equal eye that what is happening in Surat, what is happening in Guwahati, and very easily I can anticipate that what will happen in the Maharashtra. I am talking the this political turmoil happening in the state of Maharashtra, as I am from Maharashtra state. So basically, that is the penetrations of the social media in our everyone's life. Uh, so when the social media has penetrated at every level, I would love to understand from Professor Subhash Dhuliya sir that what will be the future of the media industry, and how the young generation they can visualize their career in today's media industry. Today's media industry, as though I am not from categorically from a media background, but to keep myself, I'm having my organic relationship with the media industries. So my understanding that industry is very dynamic, and it's changing. It shapes after every 2 3 years. When I was a student of a master, we used to visit the newspaper office, and we used to see that how the newspaper agency established on the 5 acres of a land. But today I am visiting the different offices, and I am seeing that newspapers and the they are running, in one simply 600 square foot room. But today, when I am seeing that people are running their news portal, only one laptop is enough. So it is not just a shrinkanizing of the physical space, but the intellectual and the economic volume of these industries, it is also tremendous change. So there are a lot of changes are taking place in the media industries, and I'm daring to talking before a person like the Professor Subhash Dhuliya sir, whom we often get a different insight and different lesson. So for me, it is going to be very enjoyable to listen Dhuliya sir and to update myself or to gather the new insight. So on behalf of Central University of Rajasthan and on behalf of Department of Cultural and Media Studies, I take this opportunity to offer my namaskar pranam to Dhuliya sir, to welcome him. I also wish to thank him for accepting this invitation and to make him available. Otherwise, I know that though I am a member of his one of WhatsApp group, and even that WhatsApp group, sometime once in a week, okay, reading Dhuliya sir's note, it's very academically enjoyable task. I know that the certain courses which he and his colleagues are running, where I need to pay a fees, and then I'm entitled to get the access for that knowledge. But today, very freely, Dhuliya sir, he made himself available. So I'm thankful to you, sir, for being with us, and I thankful to Anu Prantaji, Niru madam, and Lakra sir to create this opportunity to listen you. And I look forward this kind of more engagement with Dhuliya sir. So with this welcome note, as I'm also eager to listen you like the other prospective candidates, I request Dr. Lakra sir to take forward this session. And thank you very much, sir, for joining with us. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Professor Jagdish Yadav sir, for valuable words about the university and putting this subject into perspective. So before Professor Subhash Dhuliya sir speaks, just about him is that presently he is a founder director of News Writers In, and also he has been former Vice-Chancellor of Uttarakhand Open University, and he has taught in Indian Institute of Mass Communication, IGNU, and also in the Department of Culture and Media Studies. So just a few words about him. So I cordially welcome you, sir. Professor Dhuliya sir, over to you. Thank you.
It's a pleasure having me here. And thank you very much, Professor Jadhav and Dr. Lakhra, for your kind words. It's a real pleasure to meet all of you, Professor Jadhav, Kanta, Anoop, Lakhra, and Niru after such a long time. Topic I think is very, very interesting and relevant. Traditionally, all the universities and the institutions, they used to offer the course or the program. It was titled Journalism and Mass Communication. And most of the students of these courses, they used to focus on becoming a journalist in print media or in television channel. So it was very, very limited scope that how they perceive their career. Now today, journalist is not that journalist the way it used to be. Uh, the job of the journalism, job opportunities, they have expanded largely now. In fact, the profession of journalism is journalist. If you are working in newspapers and television news industry, is one of the lowly paid profession. In most of the major news organizations, the salary as the entry point is around 20,000. And I know the people who have put in the service of say 15 to 20 years in media industry, and their emoluments are hardly 70, 80,000 per month. So you can think of it that how lowly paid profession this is if you are working in newspaper and the television channel. Only there are few exceptions, of course, who are getting huge salary. But I think out of a crowd of 100 people, I think it's only 10% who are getting good salary. Otherwise, 90% their normal progression is very, very slow. And that's in that perspective, I think the budding people who are studying journalism, they have to look beyond becoming just a journalist. Now, the new media landscape is now totally different. You have newspapers and you have all these newspapers on digital platform. And the content of the main newspaper and the content of digital platform is somewhat different. They do pick up some content from the main newspaper, but then there is extra content in the digital platform. So you have these newspapers and television channels on digital platform. Then you see large, every from small business to multinational corporation, all of them, they have their own website. They need large people as the content writers to maintain their websites. Every multinational corporations where of course obviously the salary structure is very high, they need content writers for their website. So that's one thing. And then another emergence is the social media now. Now, social media has become very dominant in number of ways. We'll not go into it because social media is a very, very vast subject. One thing is that social media is a source of news for the media organizations. Then every individual, right from a small politicians to a high level political figure or corporate executive, all those individuals and organizations, they need social media experts. That's another area I think where there are immense job opportunities. Now, media, news, information, and entertainment industry is one of the fastest growing sector of our economy, and there are huge job opportunities. Now the problem is that I interacted with large number of senior executives who are working in these media organizations. They always complain that we are not getting the right kind of people. So on the other hand, there is, we can say there is unemployment. On the other hand, the job opportunities are increasing immensely, and these organizations, they are not getting right kind of people. So that gap is very, very significant. So when you think in terms of entering into media industry or news industry or different segments of that industry, which I've just mentioned, the basic challenge is to become employable, because that's my observation, and I think my faculty colleagues who are sitting here, they must have experienced is that large number of students, they are not able to encash these opportunities which these platforms are offering now. So that first thing is that to become employable, if you want really to get a job in that sector. Now, to become employable, what kind of skills are required? Now, first, some of the skills will remain the same. The journalism that we practiced some 20 or 30 days back, some of the skills will remain the same. For example, writing skills. Now, writing is the level of writing skills has not drastically gone down. That's we have noticed whenever we interact with our students. That's major challenge, that writing skills, they have already gone down. So first thing is that your writing skills should be very, very strong. And how to improve your writing skills? I think you are the faculty in your organizations wherever you are studying, and faculty is well equipped to train you that how to improve your writing skills. Now, second is your intellectual skills, your knowledge base. Knowledge is still very, very important thing. Knowledge base is another area where, uh, unfortunately, the reading habits of people of younger generation, it has gone down. They hardly read the books. In fact, in some of the institutions where we worked, including CURAJ, we have discovered that when we collected data from the library, it was not very satisfactory. So visiting library, it's very, very important. Reading books is very, very important. You see, whenever you watch newspapers or you read newspapers on your laptop or your screen, uh, there are scientific studies that you are not so much focused when you read something in the text format, the book format, because a screen has a lot of visual distractions. You cannot focus that much. So if you are acquiring knowledge, then reading habits are very, very important. Now, next come the professional skills, which of course are changing. You need to develop new sets of skill uh, in every 4 5 years, not even 4 5 years. I think every it's something which is a constant process that you have to enhance your professional skills. And when I say professional skills means something, because now we are living in the age where you have huge amount of information and data at our at our disposal, and you have to dig out certain information in the data which is relevant, whatever content that you are developing. So these intellectual skills are very, very important. Professional skills are important to select right kind of data. And then you see, next is the technical skills. You have to be technology savvy. Now, technology is very, very important. Well, I will say one thing is that technology cannot replace a human mind. Partially, yes, but not totally. So ultimately, it's a media professional who has to call the shots. It's not the machine, but you have to be technology savvy. Technology is changing so fast. Technology is changing entire job skills. Technology demands new set of skills. So you have to be tech savvy. And lastly, I think which is very, very important is your creative skills. Creative skills means just thinking out of box. Now, this is not age of so many people, they can write the news story. It's not a big deal. All the journalists, they write a news story. Maybe some variation here and there. You watch television channels, you read newspapers. What really happening with the television channel? And you keep on changing the channels and you are watching the same. There is nothing different. Now, creative skills is something which will make you different in the crowd. And creative skills means to create new ideas. Now, this is the age of information. People have you have access to the huge amount of information. It's your creativity that matters a lot. Creating new ideas, creating innovations, to think out of box. That's a major challenge that you face. So that's where I think today we have immense amount of job opportunities. And when we say journalism per se, then in news industry you have what we call headline journalism, the journalism of hits and clicks. Uh, you see, in some of the newsrooms, digital newsrooms, they are continuously monitoring that what kind of hits that stories are getting, because there may be that the main story is a serious political story, maybe on Maharashtra crisis or Ukraine crisis. But if the third story, which is based on celebrity, some film actress or something like that, soft story, if it's getting more hits, then they tend to change the sequence. That story they will bring at a pass. Now, it's that kind of journalism also being practiced, that it's not the question of of importance of a news story, the way a journalist or media professional will evaluate it. But to large extent, these hits and the clicks, they are also influencing the media content. So that's one skill that you have to be expertise in writing catchy headlines, juicy headlines, attractive headlines, so that you get more hits. And getting these hits in the different news organizations. Well, feel free and to interrupt me wherever you think that I need to elaborate, because maybe some of these issues are a little bit complex. So getting these hits is that kind of headlines. So that's a different brand of journalism that we are witnessing today. And of course, then we have in-depth journalism also. We have all magazines and papers which are not just indulged the headline journalism. When we say headline journalism, that means just headlines, not just ignoring the details, ignoring the context of the story. You are just informing the people that something has occurred through the headlines and nothing else. You are not giving them any perspective of the story. You are not going into the details. You are not giving them any meaning of that information as a media proposals that you are supposed to do. Then do have in-depth journalism also. On the one hand, we have news organizations who are purely governed by the commercial considerations and always struggling to get more hits and more clicks. But on the other hand, we have magazines which are still publishing articles running into thousands of words. For example, if you take Guardian or Atlantic, Foreign Affairs magazines, unfortunately, we have very little of these magazines in our country. But these magazines, they give very, very in-depth analysis of issues in hand. And their articles are running into 5,000, 6,000, thousands of words. In our country, you see, uh, when I was a journalist, we used to write an article running into 2,000 words. Then we were told to reduce this to 1500 words. And in fact, we initially we found it difficult to do the justice to the topic by reducing the number of words in 1500. Later it came to 1000 words. Then I was writing a column in one newspaper. One fine morning they asked me to freeze the article in 800 words because we want to give some visuals also in between the article. Now you see that progression is very, very important. That our shift from an article of 2000 words to 800 words is something that we are not giving very in-depth analysis of people. So that kind of journalism did happen. That it is now the version of the headline journalism that I called it. Uh, but well, I think that even if you are working in some news organizations and you have to give very catchy or juicy headline, you have to give some different headline. You can do it if you have in-depth knowledge of the subject. Because every time you have to create a new headlines, you have computer screen before you. You are monitoring all the news organizations, who is going up, which story is getting more attraction, which story is getting more hits and more clicks. So you are in that highly competitive situation, and all that because of the commercial consideration. So even if you have to give a very good headlines, and if you have in-depth knowledge of the subject, I think you will be in a position to give a good lines. So my point is that uh, to be knowledgeable of the subject is very, very important, which is missing today. So this is somewhere you see employability and demand of the industry and the kind of schools that our youngsters have. There is a huge gap, and that's making them unemployable in the emerging news and media industry. Not all of them, that most of them that I've come across. So that's very, very important that you are strong in your writing skills and the intellectual skills. Now, this is you see, we have a huge amount of information available on public domain, and you have huge amount of information available on the websites of various organizations, whether it's a political party or multinational corporations, and even the small businesses. So this is now the age of data, now we can say. And this age of data is very, very important. So navigating the Google, you need some skills. You need skills to evaluate the data or the information in terms of its authenticity, in terms of its accuracy. Now, accuracy is becoming a big casualty in this age of breaking news. You see, there was a concept, traditional concept was journalism of verification, where every facts or information, the news story, it was imperative for a journalist or a reporter to verify the facts from one source, from other source, from the third source, until unless he or she is not convinced that this fact is truth. Now, today we have this breaking news concepts. So somehow this this journalism of verification has been replaced by journalism of headlines, breaking news. Because of competition, every news organization, they want to break news immediately without waiting for the verification. And that's resulting into huge amount of fake news, disinformation, and misinformation. Now, I don't see it very fear that it's only social media which is indulging in fake news, disinformation, misinformation. We find that kind of propaganda in the mainstream media also. At times, there are the issues, national issues or international issues. There is a of the information, even the mainstream media I'm talking about, not social media, that it's full of the fake news, misinformation, disinformation. For example, now the latest is is Maharashtra crisis, or you say crisis in Ukraine. Well, Ukraine, I have been following that event very, very keenly and deeply. Today, I really don't know what really is happening in Ukraine because huge amount of information, either from the Russian sources or from Western sources, is full of fake news, disinformation, and propaganda. So we are living in that race of information that we must have that these kind of skills when we navigate the Google, the kind of information that we are collecting, we have to verify its accuracy. And verification of accuracy is what the source of the information and what is the nature of information, what is the accuracy of information. You see, in journalism, we used to always say that whatever is being revealed is not, but what is being concealed is news. Now, even if you go to the websites of some of the major organizations, it's very difficult that the kind of information that is originating from these websites of even the major television channels or the news organizations, it's very, very difficult to verify the accuracy of the information. So that's a major challenge before a media professional, that how to get right kind of information, how to process that information, and then ultimately some analyze it, process it, draw some meaning out of it, then present it to our readers, viewers, or listeners with certain perspective, with certain meaning. So we that way we are not as a media professionals a neutral carrier of information, but we have to present the information by adding some meaning to it, by placing it in some perspective. So that's vitally very, very important, that how you navigate the Google, how you gather the information, and how you evaluate the information, you process it, analyze it, make it, present it in a meaningful manner, in a perspective manner, so that as a media professional, you are contributing to the society. You are contributing to the democracy. You are contributing to make democracy more participatory. Now, when we say democracy, democracy means creating informed citizenry. And that used to be the traditional role of the media, which it did, say, some 20, 30, or 40 years back. People used to depend on the media, on the newspapers. And whatever was in the newspapers, it was considered to be the ultimate truth. That was the credibility of the media. Today, the credibility of media as a whole, it has drastically gone down. People, they do not trust media. That factor of trust is somewhere missing. So that's one thing that we have to think about it, that we are a journalist, but are we a different kind of a journalist? Are we different in the crowd? Can you make something which is totally different with something new? We can look at a reality from totally new perspective. So that's another point that we have to keep in mind, that data information is very, very important. So once you collect the data again, then through that data, how you tell the story. The data storytelling is another skills that you require. Data is available to everybody, but how you tell your story out of it, art of storytelling, the narrative writings, the narration is very, very important now. That's where you are different. And then data visualization. You see, data is available everywhere. I've seen some of the good news reports which are totally based on the data collected from some website. In Times of India, some time back, there was a main lead story on the crime scene in Delhi. And that entire story was totally based on the data that was collected from the website of Delhi Police. So this data is important. And when you say data visualization, then you need different sets of skills. It's now age of the multimedia. As a media professionals, you have to develop multimedia packages. When we say multimedia packages, that means text, audio, video, animations, graphics. It's combination of all these things. So this data visualization is another very, very important. Well, as a journalist, you don't have to be expertise in animation and graphics, because for animation and graphics there is a different team. But if you are familiar with that, nothing wrong in it. Now, that means you must have skills in audio, in text, of course, the audio and the video, and then visualizing it. Because even if you are using some animation, some graphics, you have to give the concept the graphic designer that this is a concept, that's what I want. The graphic designer only visualize it. So that's where you have to develop multimedia packages. And multimedia packages means you should have skills in writing text and some videos and even the audio. In recent times, the podcast had become very, very important because at certain point of time, it was perceived that the radio is not disappearing, but now audio is bouncing back in a big way, and podcasts are becoming very, very important now. Now, next point is you have to be very clear that with the emergence of artificial intelligence and algorithm, the job profile in every profession is undergoing a change. Now, for example, if you take the medical profession, it is predicted that in next 5-10 years, almost 80% of the work that doctors undertake will be taken over by the artificial intelligence. Because what doctor actually do when you visit a doctor, he or she will ask you for symptoms, some symptoms, some tests will be prescribed, and then some medicines will be prescribed. Because in our country, in fact, some of the doctors they will simply ask you that what are the symptoms, and based on the symptoms, they'll prescribe the medicines without any test. That also happens in our country, not in the other countries. The point is, if these information, our entire medical information, uh, right from the beginning, is fed into AI program, and then you have some problems, you can feed that problem. AI will respond to certain tests. You feed that information, and AI will prescribe you what kind of medicines you have to take. So that's one field that is undergoing a change. That 80% of the work of the doctors will be taken over the AI and much more efficiently and much more effectively. Doctors will be relevant, of course, for surgery and for so many other kind of activities. That is happening in every field now. That will happen in our in news, media, entertainment industry as well. Now, for example, one of my friend he told me that if they are developing a software that we have to simply enter your text of your story, and then AI will give you the entire package. They will search the entire internet and they will bring the visuals and photographs and everything, and they will give a multimedia package. Now that is where the job profile is undergoing a change because so many things will change now. In next 5 10 years, job profile in every sector is undergoing to be a drastic changes, and you have to prepare for that. Mentally, intellectually, creatively, you have to think about it. You have to face that changes that are going to occur in near future. So, well, to conclude, because we already have 10 minutes left, we can have some interaction. That you have immense amount, we have every brand of journalism. Do the some headline journalism that's there. If you want TV journalism, different brands. You have so many TV channels who have developed their own brands. In our country, you see, we have so many news channels, and they have the different kind of brands that they are practicing. Now it's your choice that what brand of journalism you want to practice. It's your choice whether you want to join news industry or you want to become a content writer. You want to launch your own venture. That is now your own venture is very very important. Some of the very senior journalists who resigned from the television news channels because of one or other reason, they are running their YouTube channels, and they are earning much more money when they were what they were getting in these major news channels because even even when they were the big brand in the news channels, major anchors. they are running. So we have now these opportunities in the media. You have every brand of journalism that is available, and you have to make a choice that what brand of journalism you want to practice. Whether you want to join mainstream media, you want to practice that brand of journalism that is prevailing in the mainstream media. Whether you want to go for the in-depth journalism, you are a different kind of press thinking. You can go to the news portals. You can go to different websites where you have opportunity to write in-depth analysis, and you have so many websites and so many platforms that you have. Now you have numerous choices today, and you have a choice. That means you should not get discouraged that the kind of journalism that is being practiced, and that is much more visible, that is much more visible, is the mainstream net channels. So it's not a compulsion for you that you choose for that brand of journalism. You have choices to choose platform of a brand of journalism that I think you are comfortable with, and which you think is your cup of tea. So with these remarks, I will conclude, because this is 1 hour session and still we have 10 minutes. We can have some question answer session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Subhash Dhuliya, sir, for enlightening this topic, career prospects in media industry. So now I'd like to invite Dr. Pratik Patnaik to moderate interaction session and also give his concluding remark and also propose vote of thanks. So over to Pranta sir.
Thank you, Dr. Nicholas sir. Thank you, Dhuliya sir. It is always a pleasure to listen to you. And I was really noting down how we have to train the students and the prospective students who have joined here, and some of the students of our department also. They might have also noted down that we need to inculcate the 5 skills that was pointed out by Professor Dhuliya sir. One is the writing skill, one is the intellectual skills, the technical skills, the creative skills, and how to enhance your skills of playing with data storytelling and data visualization, because the industry demands that there are new things that are coming up, and the students need to equip themselves in order to get absorbed into this media industry. Without coming in between students and you, I would like the students or the other participants, if you have any questions or any doubts, you may raise your hand and ask Professor Dhuliya. Some of you, if you can type your question in the chat box, that would also be better. Yes. I think the lecture was so clear, crystal clear, and I think students might be thinking. In the meantime, maybe I can pose some questions on behalf of the students, like in understanding, sir, like you have talked about journalism and in the media industry, and sir has also been associated with the foundation, the newswriters.in, which is sir's own creation, and there has been like updated technical skills and all these writing skills that are being trained to the students. One thing that I was curious to know when we are talking about media industry, or one aspect I think that was left out, is in terms of cinema. Like, if you could say something about cinema as one of the media industry, and what are the changes, since you are also associated with Digmansu Dhulia, who is a nephew, and he comes from the film background. So maybe if you could throw some light on the cinema industry as well. In the meantime, students are requested to type
Yes,
their.
well, you see, entertainment industry is now expanding very fast. You have traditional entertainment industry, traditional cinema, and then emergence of these OTT platform. OTT platforms, they all of them, they are running short of the content. They're running short of the content, and I know the people that they have produced some documentaries on their smartphone. There one in Lucknow, and that documentary was purchased by the Netflix. You have these platforms are offering immense amount of opportunities where you can create your own content. You see, the most beautiful of this age is that you can create your own content and there are the bias there. Only point that if you have to identify that this is the content which is acceptable, or the term within quote which is sellable. And you have so many stories. You see, uh, when you go around, you watch the people. आप किसी खुमचे वालों को देखते हैं, चाय वालों को देखते हैं, हर आदमी एक स्टोरी है. आप छोटे शहर में रहते हैं, आप गांव में रहते हैं, there are the stories are everywhere around you. What you need is to keep your eyes and ears closed. And just when you read books or the newspapers, you create story ideas. So creating these ideas is a big challenge, and that's where you need creativity is very, very important. So my point is that when you look at a subject, you can look at it differently now. For example, another area that is emerging is now you see you have so many content in these OTT platform which only need some basic political insight and some idea about the rural life. For example, the serial Panchayat. It's very interesting, very watchable. It's so simple, and if you have understanding of our rural areas, their politics, and if you have read, for example, Shilal Sukla's book, what is that book, Pranta, title of that book? Shilal Sukla.
Rag Darbari, sir.
Rag Darwari. Rag Darwari is great classics, you see. If you read that books, you will find the reality of our villages. And it's true, that's very, very valid, that kind of politics that take place in the villages. So if you can generate these ideas and in OTT platform, now Panchayat is something where the reality of Panchayat in place were depicted in a very, very entertainment way. But at the same time, there were a lot of factual accuracy also, what happens in our villages. So it was not just a fiction, but it was a reality which was presented in form of the fiction. So I think entertainment industry is another stream. But you see, when we are offering courses in journalism and mass communication, somewhere we don't cover the entertainment industry. But I think now all the journalism schools, they need to introduce entertainment industry also in their syllabus, because entertainment industry is very much part of the journalism and mass communication. And we know that cinema or entertainment industry is the dominant form of political culture. It's presiding form of dominant of popular culture. That's another area I think which is very, very important. And Dr. Pranta has very rightly pointed out about this subject.
Yeah, thank you, sir. We have Dr. Vidu Bhushan Das who has raised his hand. Yes, Vidu, you may put your question.
Hello, sir. It was a great talk, and you covered almost all the aspects of journalism as a career. As a student of development communication, I thought to add one point. Hope you will agree with that. With all these 5 skills, if you add one more skill to the students' learning, that is human or being benevolent, and then there is enough scope in development sector. So even if we will search jobs in DevNet jobs India.org today, we may get more than 10 jobs at least relating to communication and development, communication, media.
Yeah, that's very, very good questions. In fact, we have time, Prantana?
Yes,
Pranta,
sir.
we have
Yes,
time?
yes, yes, sir.
That's very, very important questions of development journalism. I did not talk about it because in limited time I could only cover which are the dominant forms of career. Development journalism, you see, when we launched development journalism in our syllabus, uh, there were no takers of development journalism, the way we are teaching the development journalism. Because at that time, we did not have these alternative platforms. Alternative platforms in mainstream media. And development was never on the agenda of mainstream media after this commercialization, after 90s. Before 90s, development used to be in the agenda of the media. So development journalism, whenever these courses were started, they could not take off. But now you see, after development communication, then development journalism, a new stream has emerged now. I think that is next phase of development journalism. They call it solutions journalism. Solution journalism is a bit different because in solution journalism, it's a combination of development journalism and investigative journalism. You investigate certain issues by meeting all stakeholders, going to the ground, observing things with your own eyes, and then you do a very investigative report, and where you suggest some solutions also. That these are the problems that this development projects has failed, and these are the solutions. And these investigative reports are very interesting. So I think development uh, journalism, and now you see we have the platforms. Why to bother about the mainstream media? कौन सा टीवी चैनल जो है वो ये खबरें दिखाएगा? एक बार मैं एक यूनिवर्सिटी में था, उनका कन्वोकेशन था. कन्वोकेशन में इमिनेंट पर्सन्स कोई आ रहे थे. So the Vice Chancellor asked me that to get in touch with some of the news channels to cover it. So I talked to one news channels. He was my friend. He said कि हम इसको कवर तो नहीं कर सकते हैं, लेकिन अगर जो है आप कंगना रनौत को बुलाएंगे तो विल कवर इट, है ना? सो दैट इज द मीडिया प्रोग्रामिंग ऑफ द मेन स्ट्रीम मीडिया. लेकिन आज जो सॉल्यूशन जर्नलिज्म है, यू जस्ट स्टडी सॉल्यूशन जर्नलिज्म. There are number of websites who are focusing on that, and they have audience now. And we have probably difference that whenever you are launching a website or you are writing some column, your target audience will be very clear. So you are not always going for the mass audiences. The audience may be the niche audience. You don't need all masses. You see, I'll cite an example to you. In Time magazine, one of their economic journalists, he wrote an article. So the copy editor, he looked at the article. उसने मुंह बनाया कि कौन इस आर्टिकल को पढ़ेगा, मतलब who cares for it? Then he knew that what he's thinking. He said, I've written this article only for the three people. One is my editor, one is Central Bank of England, and third is the Chancellor of Treasury. मतलब एक तो मेरा एडिटर, दूसरा सेंट्रल बैंक और तीसरा फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर. He said, I've written the article only for three persons. Because when these three persons will read this article, it will change the policy of the country. So you see, that why I'm citing this example, that when you write something, what kind of impact you create. Now today, when I was the journalism, I remember that after I told you, we used to get calls from the External Affairs Ministry, Home Ministry, that they wanted more inputs. So the news media was impacting even the the policies of the government. So you can do that journalism. Now, for example, since independence, we have launched some 45 development projects in our country. और उन डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट्स का अगर 20% इम्प्लीमेंट हुआ होता तो हमारे देश की तस्वीर कुछ और होती. 45 development projects, because they never reached as grassroots level. In Rajiv Gandhi's famous speech in Mumbai long time back when he was Prime Minister, he said that only 8% of that these resources which were allocated for the rural development, they were actually utilized. They reached to the grassroots level. Now that kind of stories, that kind of development journalism, that kind of development combined with the investigation, I think it has a huge market, and it has audience who would like to read these stories. It can influence the policy makers. आप जहाँ भी रहते हैं, where do you stay? Vidhu?
Sir, I'm right now in Bhubaneswar.
In Bhubaneswar. Now, for example, in Bhubaneswar, you visit some villages and then you evaluate the implementation of the all government project in those areas. And then you write something that will influence the government policy because you are giving government the inputs. That's one of the major role of news media, in addition to the watchdog, to give the inputs to the government, formulate policies and the programs, and to find out that what is the problem with the policies and change these policies. And by practicing that brand of journalism, you can influence the policies of the government. And that journalism, I think, is most important journalism when you influence the policy making, rather than just catering the masses what they want, not what they need, but what they want, which mainstream media is doing today. They are just addressing what people want. इसको देख के मजा आ गया मतलब. All studio programs by television channels are cheap entertainment. Nothing else, nothing more than that. So I think I have answered your question.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Vidhu. Thank you, sir, for answering. Any other questions that students that you have? I think there are no questions. Maybe students are all eager to like join the media industry, or they are still thinking like how they have to develop the skills. So I think we can end.
That's why I think one point that
Yes,
that
sir.
is missing into a generation. They have to be curious. They have to be inquisitive.
Yeah.
They must possess hunger for the knowledge.
True.
And when I say these things, then whenever you are conducting this conversations, they have to be more interactive. And they have to speak out their mind. They should agree, disagree, offer their comments. That kind of curiosity is required if you want to join the media industry. That curiosity is required. Always stress on these 3 points: curiosity, inquisitiveness, and hunger for the knowledge.
True. Yeah. Sonu Kumar, do you have any questions or any comment? I think
Yes, Sonu, please go ahead.
you are muted. Please unmute yourself, Sonu. सोनू कुमार अपने आप unmute कीजिए. हाँ, अनम्यूट कीजिए. कोई सवाल है तो पूछिए.
Sonu, we can't hear you. Please unmute yourself. Yes, Sneha, you have some questions?
I think Sneha is currently pursuing her master's in our department. She is from English literature background. Yes, Sneha, you have any doubts or confusion related what you are going to do after this course? You want any guidance from Dhuliya sir?
Yes, sir. It was a new field for me, but what sir said makes quite a lot of sense, and it was quite insightful about the topic and the future I hold. So, thank you, sir. But now I don't have any more questions, but I will ask.
Well, Sneha, thanks for your kind word, but I would like to emphasize on one point that these skills are required in every profession. This is not just confined to journalism, media, and communication. Whatever you do, even if you join some major corporations, you have to deal with these issues. So it's not just confined to that. In every profession where you pursue a career, you need these skills to survive, uh, to survive meaningfully in this age of data. Thanks for your question.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sneha. Okay, I think there are no more questions, so maybe we can wrap up this webinar. So I would like to propose a vote of thanks to Professor Subhash Dhuliya, who has a long association with our department, and we hope to continue this association furthermore. And I would also take this opportunity to thank Dr. Jagdish Jadhav sir, who has always been supportive for such kind of events, and Dr. Nicholas Lakra sir, Dr. Anup Kumar, Dr. Niru Prasad, who are my colleagues. I'd also like to thank Dr. Vidhu Bhushan Das, who has always been a constant audience in our all of the events and also encourages his students to join. And it is always a pleasure to have so many other participants, even our ex-students also who have joined. So I thought that some of the questions might come from the ex-students who have completed the course and would also be asking like what to do or how to pursue their career in the media industry. Anyway, so I hope that this was a very good session and we made most of our Friday weekend morning was a pleasant start. So thank you everybody for joining and thank you, sir.
Well, thanks, Pranta, for having me. It was really a pleasure interacting with you and then meeting my faculty after so long time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for joining.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Jadhav sir.
Thank you, sir.